Hello everybody, it's me, and welcome back to the video. Now, in this video, we are going to be going over some absolutely ginormous changes coming to Loomian Legacy on the Halloween update. I think it's this Friday. Yeah, this Friday. And this is just going to be absolutely ridiculous. This is not like any changes to Loomians. This is mostly just like weathers, items, and a bunch of abilities that are changing. But we're going to be going over all of it because I think it's news that a lot of PvPers might want to know about that don't have access to Discord and stuff, that don't know what any of this stuff is. But yeah, I don't have face cam because I didn't really know how I was going to implement it in this style. But who cares? Anyway, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alrighty, and here we go. So we're going to get straight into this. Big priority change to Halloween, and almost guaranteed, but of course something could go wrong. So everything that I'm about to talk to you about is pretty much guaranteed to come with the Halloween event. For one, we have specialty gloves, which is choice band, and specialty goggles, which is choice specs. And if you don't know what those do, you know what specialty boots do, right? Basically, those give you a 50% increase to your speed. Now, what specialty goggles does is give you a 50% increase to your special attack or ranged attack. Same thing with specialty gloves, but for melee attack. So basically, we're gonna be able to doing a lot more damage. Stuff like choice specs, land torch is gonna be a thing. Choice banded, rogue assault spamming wrestling. It's gonna be absolutely insane. It's gonna be crazy. Now, I will say this. One thought that I have with this is I think that the game is going to be incredibly unbalanced while the choice band and specs are in the game. And I think that's gonna be okay. It's gonna be this little, like, really broken period where just everything's gonna be completely broken. So I wouldn't stress too much about it if it's all busted, because Jamie has said that he wants the game to be in this really broken state, but then after a while he's going to fix everything that is broken. And yeah, that's all that we're getting items. That's all we're getting item wise for what we know of. And now we have weather changes. Rain. Its main effect is increasing water type moves damage to up to 50%. From 25 to 50, decreases fire type move damage by 50%, and you heal plant type Loomian's health by 1/16. So essentially, Rain just got a 25% power increase, and could potentially see a nerf at some point down the line. But it's basically just becoming Rain from Pokemon. And Heat Wave is the same thing. Fire moves are getting their damage increased to 50%. Water is getting their damage decreased by 50%. And Bug type Loomian's moves are 10% cheaper. Do not get that confused with Bug type moves are 10% cheaper. Let's say that I had a Swolder with Pharaoh Blast, just as an example, okay? My Swolder, that move would now cost 45 energy, right? It would cost 45 energy, and where normally it would cost 50 because it is 10% cheaper. And then what about Baneki? If Baneki had Pharaoh Blast, well, that would still cost 50 energy because it's a bug type Loomian, not a bug type move. Now we have Thunder. Increases electric type moves damage by 25% and reduces the electric type moves energy by 25%. And air type Loomians become grounded. The secondary is Loomians cannot fall asleep. So basically now, I think the main idea with the weathers is to get a synergy. Like, you have the main type, which is water with rain, and then the secondary typing, which is plant, which they heal. Heat with bug, thunder with earth. Now, earth is not explicitly mentioned, but air type Loomians are going to become grounded, meaning that earth type moves now hit them for neutral damage. So all of a sudden, Stratosaur goes from being completely immune to earth type moves to being hit super effectively. So basically now, stuff like choice banded Behemoth is a thing on thunderstorm teams, and you also have earthquake spamming rogue assault spamming Borok on thunder, so that's going to be ridiculous. And then we also have electric type moves damage being increased by 25%. I think that was already a thing. But then you reduce electric type moves energy by 25%. Now, this is not the same thing as the heat wave secondary effect. This is just any electric type move in general. So if I was to have a Gardrone with Thunderstrike, that would get its energy reduced. Whereas if Gardrone had Feroblast, it would not be reduced. Now we have Wind. Now, Wind, I think, is going to be one of the better weathers now, because Air-type Loomians gain 25% more speed and increases Toxic-type moves by 25%. The secondary nullifies trapping mechanics. So basically now, Snagoop is getting a 25% damage increase on its Toxic moves and a 25% speed increase. Every Air-type is going to get a 25% speed increase, and let's think about this. A 25% speed increase, I don't know if it's to the base stat, it's probably to the raw stat in general, but that's essentially going to mean that stuff like Nymare is suddenly going to be able to be outspeeding Zulong under Wind. So it's going to be terrifying. Gargolem speed is going to be nearly unoutspeedable. The worst part about using Wind is the fact you have to use Whippledrift. But that's fine. This is a really, really good change. But then again, it still keeps with that synergy idea where Rain has plant synergy, Heat has bug synergy, Thunder has earth synergy. Technically, it's not explicitly mentioned. And then Wind has toxic synergy. But I do think this is going to be a really cool change. And then we have Fog. Spirit-type Loomians ignore other non-Spirit-type Loomians' abilities. So what this means is they are not exactly nullified, right? Basically, before, Fog right now, it completely nullifies any non-Spirit type Loomian's ability. But after this change, your ability will not be nullified. Spirit types will just ignore them. So let's say, for example, I switch a Wobblisk in on a Charonix with Fog. Charonix can magnify up and it can blow past me because it's going to be ignoring my ability. But my ability is still there outside of non-Spirit type Loomians. So if they were to send in a Borok, right, it would not get a boast increase. Well, it's actually a bad example. I guess, yeah, you just ignore stat boosts, right? You would still ignore stat boosts because before Wobblisk would just lose its ability entirely, but now Wobblisk would be able to keep its ability unless it's against another Spirit type Loomian. And yeah, this light type Loomians also ignore this rule. So like light types just completely ignore the ability reduction. And the secondary is every Loomian's 2-turn moves become 1 turn. Now I'd like you to think about that real quick. Can anyone guess why this isn't an incredible change for one specific Loomian? Chienta. Now, Chienta is pretty strong, right? In the sense that it's able to get some late game cleans, some incredible sweeps, but it also has a signature move that I don't think a lot of people know about. It is called Solar Punch. Now, Solar Punch is a incredibly strong move. It's a 100 base power move that also increases your melee attack by 1 stage on the first turn. Then you attack on the second turn. You can see why this is broken, because all of a sudden, Chienta is going to keep its Sharp Claws ability no matter what, and then it's also going to be able to throw out a 100 base power, 100% accurate power-up punch, which if you don't know, power-up punch increases your melee attack by 1 stage every time it hits. And if you forgot, plant types can be immune to Solar Punch because, of course, it's a light type move. But you remember, Chienta's part ice type, so it can hit those plant types. So if you're ever going to be using Fog, you're most likely going to be seeing a Chienta on the enemy side because Chienta's going to be absolutely dumb. Absolutely broken with the Fog changes. And I honestly think that with this change, you could probably even run Mesmerizing. I honestly think you could probably run Mesmerizing because that you would be less susceptible to priority users because they physically would not be able to hit you. You have to outspeed Chienta naturally, and the only things that really want to do that that can hit it quad effectively are stuff like Protogon and Stratosaur and stuff faster than base 115. Chance is going to be really dumb under Fog, let's just be honest. And those are all the changes that are pretty much guaranteed to be coming with the Halloween event, unless there's some kind of absolutely ridiculous freaking explosion at LTS. Well, yeah, I have no idea what would happen. But then we have some other things that could happen. So everything that I'm saying right now could happen. So we have Resentful ability nerf to only deal 50% damage. What that means is, let's say you have 100 health on Imperior, then you die. Instead of dealing 100 health to the thing that knocked you out, you now only be dealing 50 health to them, because it's only 50% of the health that you had when you died. So if you had 2 HP, you would be dealing 1 HP. And then the tank ability nerf to make it so hazard entries explode the ability. So basically, if you have a Ursnack and there's hazards up, your tank is completely useless. Same thing with Mutagon. It is completely useless. Same thing with Diborg. It is completely useless. So if you have a tank user, you're going to 100% need hazard removal. And Mystic Tone is also being buffed, so it can activate every single move. Which means, hey, that Celesting video could come back. And then Mystic Tone ability is also being fixed, so it's just kind of being buffed in general, where using the move Dodge, the ability should not activate, which was a little bug it had before, where if you dodge and hit you with a contact move, the game would be like, oh, it's a contact move. Let's use Mystic Tone. But now that won't happen anymore. And Vice Jaws is being reworked to where the new effect is to just ignore the opponent's melee defense increases. Now, this is actually a really good buff because let's say that you have an enemy Tundralin that's at like +3 at like 50% health, right? You send in your Hunter. Normally, you'd be able to just rejuvenate and get up to a very solid amount of health. But now, Hunter is just going to be able to Vice Jaws through all those buffs and pretty much deal true damage to anything that has melee defense increases. So this is a very solid buff in my opinion. And now Flare is also being nerfed, so if the opponent switches or hard switches, the power does not double. So what that means is if you, like, let's say you go for like a Flash and Flee, right? Then the power of Flare is still going to be increased if it goes first. But if instead you just switch, let's say I just switch into my Nymare, right? Right now, Flare would be at the normal 140 base power. But now it would be at the 60 base power, much easier to deal with. I still think that it needs a power nerf because Flare is just still stupid because Vicious Rend is stupid, but you know what? It's fine. And then we have Tear Down the move is being changed to lower the target's evasion by 1 stage and buff the energy cost to 35. Now, I know it's weird that it's saying buffing to 35. It was at 50 originally, now it's being buffed to 35, and that's also pretty good, but this also means that some funny shenanigans can happen with anomaly users being able to get teardown spammed on them to get evasion buffs, and that honestly sounds like a really funny video, which is another Dorigo video I can do. And now Baffle is also being nerfed, or pretty much reworked, to be Ancient Roar, but it can't bypass Scapegoat. So basically, Baffle is now going to lower your melee attack and range attack and also switch you out. But if you have a Scapegoat up, it will not bypass it. Ancient Roar will still bypass it because it is a sound type move. And now Hypnotize and Snore Spores, the moves are going to be reworked to work like Yawn. Their energy is going to be 40 and their accuracy is going to be 90. And Sleep turns are going to be nerfed to 1, 2, 3. At last, we are getting some nerfs to Sleep. Basically, right now, what Sleep does is if you put something to sleep, they're literally guaranteed to be asleep for 2 turns. But now, they are only guaranteed to be asleep for 1 turn. And then possibly 3 turns. So, finally, basically what Sleep is now, it just gives you a, like, completely free turn, I guess. You put something to sleep and it's a free turn to do something. But because it's being reworked to work like Yawn, if you're curious what Yawn does, basically, let's say I use Hypnotize on a Cynomoth, right? It is going to say that Cynomoth is getting drowsy. And then if Cynomoth does not switch out after its next turn ends, it will fall asleep. So basically what Yawn can do is actually force you to switch out, but to compensate for how powerful this move can be, Jamie is making it so sleep turns are guaranteed to be 1 turn, which I think is a very, very good nerf. And a very good rework to sleep. And that's all, that's like a bunch of the, that's a bunch of other stuff. And now we have a few more ability changes. These are pretty much literally all nerfs. So, yeah. Burning Rage is going to be nerfed, so fire-type moves cost 25% more energy. Oh, shoot. Same thing with Chilling Passion, but Ice-type moves cost 25% more energy. Same thing with Incandescent. Light-type moves are going to be costing 25% more energy. Same thing with Pitch Black. Dark-type moves are going to be costing 25% more energy. And Railgun ability nerf. So electric moves cost 10% more energy. Same thing with Obsidian Heart, Power Fist, or Heavy Fist, and Power Jaw. Obsidian Heart making it so ancient type moves cost 10% more energy. Heavy Fist making it so punching and slapping cost 10%. And Power Jaw making it so biting moves cost 10% more energy. And I do think that is pretty much everything covered. But yeah, if you want like a really quick rundown, we are getting choice specs and choice band. Weathers are being buffed basically to be much stronger than they are now. So weather wars are pretty much going to be coming back. A bunch of ability changes are coming, which is going to be nice. Mystic Tone's finally being buffed. A bunch of 50% damage boosting abilities being nerfed to cost more energy. But it generally probably won't really change that much because I know you might be thinking, oh god, this is terrible. One thing that you have to remember, we are also going to be getting passive energy regeneration with PvP 2.0, so these changes won't really affect us too badly. And I do know that there was some talk about paralysis actually being changed. I know Eat was talking about it on his stream, and paralysis might be changed in the future to, instead of having a 1 in 4, I think, or 1 in 3 chance to fully paralyze you, it now will just cancel out your passive energy regen, which I think will be much better personally, because being able to not move for a turn honestly really sucks. I honestly think that the only status that should make you unable to move should always be sleep, in my opinion. But yeah, with all of that being said, hopefully that you all enjoyed, and I will see everyone later. Bye-bye!